Welcome to Popcorn Playback. Today we recap an action thriller, Colombiana. Before we get to the storyline, like and subscribe for more recaps and have a great day. Colombia, Bogota. A guy named Fabio is having a conversation with his employer and drug lord Don Luis. Fabio informs him that he is leaving and assigning another partner with the cartel's accounting duties. Don Luis looks sad but says he'll miss Fabio as they raise a glass to his memory. Don Luis sees Fabio depart and signals to Marcos Dorde Mula, his right-hand man, saying kill him, before adding, no one leaves Don Luis's cartel. Fabio, though, is not an idiot. He is aware that his employer will punish him and anybody else who tries to leave the drug trade, as well as him. Fabio grabs his three most trusted bodyguards and runs home, knowing they have barely 1 hour before they must leave the country. When Fabio finally reaches his house, he announces to his wife Alicia that it's time. Catalea, his little daughter, is already packed and ready to go when he orders her to. Fabio advises her to take a microchip to the American embassy just in case. It contains all you need to know about Don Luis's criminal operations. Besides proving her with his brother's contact information, he tells her it's your passport. Fabio then offers his Catalea adorned necklace to his daughter. His mom was a huge fan of growing them, so he gave her the moniker. He advises, never forget who you are. Marco and a large group of cartel members arrives minutes later and brutally murder Fabio's guys. Fabio and Alicia takes up arms and attempts to fend off the attackers, but they are slain out of view. Catalea sits at the table, listening to the shooting in disbelief. It's Marco and the guys up in Catalea. Marco inquires as to her needs. Catalea gets really intimate and uses a hidden dagger to stab him in the hand. Catalea climbs onto a ledge after being scooped through a window. Her parents apparently prepared her with the survival skills for just such an emergency. She swallows the microchip in a hurry. While Marco's cartel enforcers pursue after her, she manages to get away. Catalea avoids capture by hiding out in the sewers despite the presence of parkour runners, guys in motorbikes, and men in automobiles. She pulls up a manhole and flies to America. She is taken to the embassy where she is questioned by an agent about her father. Catalea claims he passed away. When the man asks whether her father had anything, Catalea threw up quickly so she could hand him the microchip. All Don Luis's dealings are documented there. The agent stares at her in disbelief, then asks whether she knows what she has. Catalea replies, my passport. They offer her a way out of the country and new identification in return for the chip. She is being taken to Miami by a CIA operative from the United States. Catalea excuses herself to use the restroom and sneak out of the window. Her father has instructed her to visit Chicago, so she purchases a bus ticket there. She travels to a dangerous area in search of Emilio. Fabio's brother and her uncle is the guy Emilio, Cliff Curtis. In his excitement, Emilio rushes to embrace her. Catalea breaks down, sobbing in her uncle's arms because she has finally let go. She spends the night at her uncle's place and wakes up the next morning to join him for breakfast. In the mornings, she has breakfast prepared by her grandma. Catalea wants to know whose bed she shared last night. Saddened, Emilio explains that the room belonged to his late son. Emilio inquires as to her current desires. To be a killer. Will you help me? Catalea asks. Sure, says Emilio. The following day, Emilio drives her to a posh prep school, where he bribes the headmaster to let her enroll in the midst of the school year. Catalea is frustrated as they depart since she doesn't believe she will get any knowledge there. She must be trained to become an assassin. Emilio grabs a handgun out of nowhere and fires at a passing automobile, forcing it to crash. She'd be dead in 5 years because he could train her to kill for a living, he says. She ought to enroll in classes if she values intelligence and competence. She must get insights into the minds of others. Catalea gives him her attention. Current time. While chatting about their spouses, 2 police officers are struck by a drunk motorist and thrown from their vehicle. A lady emerges, muttering incoherently. They nab her fast, and we see that she is wearing a flower necklace. Here we see Catalina C0L0MBIANA in her adult form. She is brought to the local police station. There, she is arrested for driving under the influence and taken to jail for the night. The night of the incident, marshals arrive with the prisoner. They're placing him in jail. Catalina opens her eyes. She faked a DUI to gain entry to the police station. After picking the lock, she transforms into a skin-tight black outfit. At her cell, she reaches for the spoon in her coffee. She turns the cameras away so that she cannot be seen, then sneaks off to the electrical room to get a drink of water. She sets up the cup and spoon to create an ignition source, then proceeds to the vents. The leak from the cup is enough to cause a power failure after only a few seconds. Catalina squeezes through a broken fan and into the room just as the electricity is being restored. She casually enters the male urinal. He enters the restroom, where Catalina promptly knocks him unconscious. She dragged his body in front of the camera to get them to let her back in. She unlocks the cage and smacks the inmate to rouse him up. He is instructed to remove his shirt by her. When he demands an explanation, she fires numerous shots at him. When the marshals hear the gunfire, they rush to the cell and find the sleeping guard holding his weapon. To give herself some time to get away, Catalina blamed him for the murder. Catalina still travels to the roof to hide from the marshals, who are searching the entire building. When she is so sure no one is watching, she returns to her cell via the ventilation system, closes the door, and redresses. When the marshals arrive, she has gone back to her hiding place and is pretending to sleep. The marshals had absolutely no idea what occurred. After Catalina's fingerprints are taken, she is freed the next day. As she walks away from the cell, she jerks her hands free. She had on a rubber skin, imitating someone else's impressions. Catalina visits the residence of her sort-of boyfriend, the painter Danny, Michael Vartan. Danny had sex with Catalina, but she departs the next morning without saying goodbye, and he just knows her as Jennifer. When FBI Special Agent Boss Lenny James arrives at the jail, he learns that the murder victim is the 22nd in a series that the Bureau has been investigating for 4 years. The Catalina flower has been identified. Catalina visits her office, where she is greeted by 2 attentive, enormous dogs. She cooks steak for them. Pepe, an acquaintance of Emilio's, is present inside. He is in charge of her vehicles and weaponry. Catalina retrieves one of her false passports for Mexico from a safe. Mexico. Here we are at the opulent home of the hedge fund manager, who is surrounded by beautiful ladies he wouldn't stand a chance with if he didn't have millions. When the visitor to an aquarium comments that the sharks in the pool are ignoring her, the guy assures her that all it takes is a single drop of blood for them to become her closest friends, and they devour her. The hedge fund boss has requested that his security team increase by 1 guy tonight. Without attracting the attention of the sharks, Catalina swims through the aquarium and breaks through a glass door inside the mansion. She produces a handgun attached with a silencer. When the hedge fund manager got up, he saw that Catalina had written thief and a floor pattern on him. As he explores his estate, he discovers that his guards have been murdered. When he spots a flower near the pool, he grabs 2 weapons and heads there. Catalina announces her presence from where she's perched on a chair. He aims his firearms at her, but they're all jammed. Catalina hits him in the legs with a bullet. The man begs her not to murder him, promising to give her twice as much as before if she refrains. Catalina assures you, "I'm not going to kill you." The man figures out that he is actually beneath the sharks and gets her point. He begs Catalina not to shoot him, but she does, and he falls into the newly uncovered pool. Blood spurts, and his sharks quickly devour him. Ross tries to make connections to active cases in Colombia, but he is unable to do so since the matter is under the purview of the CIA. On the phone, Ross requests approval from Richard, but Richard avoids the subject. Before Agent Ross can put 2 and 2 together, he phones Luis and urges him to take care of the situation. Luis assigns Marco the task of finding Catalina and questioning all Colombians until he discovers the identity of her family. Once again, Danny and Catalea shared a bed. Middle of the day. Catalea is sound asleep when Danny snaps a quick snapshot of her. He rouses her with breakfast in hand and the promise of leftovers for lunch. Catalea goes into a panic and claims she has to go since she has overextended herself. Danny is confused and unsure of what he had done wrong. Emilio and Catalea have a chat. After reading the newspaper, he is fuming. Catalea has continued to leave her mark with her business card. 8 people were shot dead in a pub, and the police are hunting for them. One of the victims was a friend of Emilio's. Emilio informs her, "You're retired." Catalea insists on continuing to work, despite Emilio's warnings that she is endangering the few loved ones she has left. He killed numerous people after his kid died, but it did help and he placed his family in danger. Emilio gives her a photo of her parents as a memento, a sobering reminder of what she may one day lose. Catalea is wailing on the floor. Danny tells his acquaintance at the coffee shop that he's falling in love with Jennifer, even though he doesn't really know anything about her. When the friend sees the photo, he is floored by how attractive she is. Since Danny is preoccupied with having his car fined, his friend takes the phone and phones his sister-in-law, who works at a local police station, to get further information. Ross is working on his computer when he receives the image of Catalea. He follows the signal to the other police station where he has the technician detained. Ross checks the photo and against the jail surveillance video and finds a match. He wants to find Catalea, a lady. Catalea contacts Danny from her house, attempting to explain her feelings to him. When Danny brings up the picture, she flips out and demands to know who else saw it. While Catalea is checking the surroundings of her flat, he brings up his acquaintance. She's going to be taken in by SWAT. To get out of her apartment, she turns on the shower and climbs into an air duct. She sprints past a few units before entering one. She knocks out the renter who is making a commotion. She finds the harness and sniper rifle that she had hidden in the man's toilet and later retrieves them. The door to her apartment is blown off its hinges by Ross and his agents as she puts explosives on the wall. She employs the harness to descend the drain pipes to the carport below. She takes out the surveillance cameras and makes it through another vent in time to escape SWAT's pursuit. She manages to escape via the underground system. Catalea visits Emilio's only to discover that it has been trashed. A lifeless Pepe lies on the floor. Her heart breaks and she discovers her grandmother dead in the kitchen. When she goes looking for Emilio, she discovers his body in a chair. He had obviously been tormented. Catalea yells at him, "I'm sorry," in a mix of grief and rage. When Ross returns home, Catalea is waiting for him with a revolver in her hand. She beckons him to a chair. She discloses that she has installed a pressure-sensitive bomb in his chair to prevent any pranks. Catalea assures him that she is the one he has been seeking. It took until now to capture Don Luis's attention after being signaled with the Catalea flower tag. The final piece of her was his now. Catalea warns Ross that if he does not acquire the CIA's intels on Don Luis, she would kill one of his relatives every week until he feels as empty as she did back then. She assures him that the device will be rendered inoperable as soon as she has left the area. Ross informs Richard of the circumstance. Richard refuses to reveal the information. Ross receives a phone call. Catalea is the one who threatens Richard's life if he doesn't provide the address to her. Richard is unconcerned since his windows are made of sturdy material. Catalea fires a shot from her sniper rifle, shattering the window. He has given Richard's address. Catalea hangs up on Ross when he asks about his family, although she had no plans to hurt them. Catalea visits Pepe in his workshop. She reaches for her arsenal. She takes in the sight of the canine companions, taking the armored vehicles. She heads off to find Don Luis. Marco is briefing the guy at Don Luis's estate on the situation with Catalea. You shouldn't underestimate her. There's a sound that Luis can hear. They're being threatened by a missile. Luis barely avoids being blown up along with the rest of the room. Marco helps him to his feet, and the two of them make an effort to escape. The men decide to form a convoy, so 4 of them pile into a car. Catalea smashes the automobile with her pickup after breaking through. She exits the vehicle and shoots at the guys inside, ultimately killing them. In the last gunfight, she eliminates Luis and Marco's soldier one by one. While Marco tries to murder Catalea, he locks Luis in a secure chamber. A few quick gunfights later, it's down to Marco and one other man. Catalea shoots the man dead and turns to approach Marco with a weapon. They commence a hand-to-hand battle, with Catalea's revolver serving as a weapon for both of them. Catalea tries to suffocate him with a towel. After a moment, Marco picks up the weapon and prepares to fire, but Catalea quickly removes the clip, tears off the slide, and stabs him in the neck. Luis exits the panic room in one of his trucks after learning that all of his guys have been killed, but that Catalea has no idea where he is. Because of a trash truck, he reaches a dead end. Marco's phone rings and he picks it. It is Catalea. Luis assures her that even if they never had each other, she will never murder him. Catalea claims, "Actually, I have you exactly where I want you." Luis turns around and sees Catalea's two dogs. Catalea commands the canines, "Eat." They dismantle Don Luis, completing her vengeance. Ross and the FBI officers arrested Danny and took him into custody. Danny is honest about his lack of knowledge. Ross claims he is not technically in police custody, but he still must answer some questions. Ross gets coffee for Danny when he begs for it. Catalea contacts Danny by phone. She reassures him that everything is fine. She reveals that her given name is Catalea. Danny hopes that one day she would come back to him like his little bird. Catalea reassures him that perhaps she will be able to. An agent informs Ross that Danny is about to get a call from Catalea, and the two quickly return. Time is running out for Danny. Catalea starts crying after hearing Danny remark, "I love you." Ross gives him the order to hand up the phone, but Catalea immediately hangs up on him. Ross looks down at his phone and tells Danny he may leave. Catalea puts on her shades and boards a bus heading in an unspecified direction. Okay, that's all for the recap for Colombiana. Thank you for watching.